and welcome to episode 4 of A Yarn Tale. This is a knitting podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I live with my husband, our 3 kids, and our dog, Max. So, we have a lot to talk about today. It's been almost 3 weeks since I podcasted last, so if this is your first time stumbling upon this video, welcome. I'm so glad you decided to check it out. And if you're a returning viewer, bless your heart. Thank you so much for coming back. I really enjoy reading everybody's comments and just connecting a little bit with people who also are crazy about yarn. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So you might have noticed I am wearing a new sweater, a grown-up size sweater. This is my No Frills sweater by PetiteKnit. It is way overdue. I should have finished it a long time ago, but you know, things get in the way, shiny new projects, the dishes, the laundry, the usual. So this is a top-down raglan. It's mostly stockinette. There's a 1x1 rib at the collar, 1x1 rib at the cuff, a pretty decent sized cuff. And I'm gonna do the awkward podcaster crouch. There's a 1x1 rib around the hem. I made this mostly to pattern. I didn't do a lot of modifications. I made the sleeves a little longer because I have crazy long monkey arms, and I made the hem a little longer, although not by much, because it came out pretty cropped. And I do love myself a good pair of high-waisted pants, but I don't always have them, so I wanted to give myself the option of wearing this even if, you know, I was just wearing a regular old pair of jeans. So this is it. I love it. I knit this out of Filcolana Anina in the colorway 225 red, held double with Filcolana Tilia, which is a silk mohair, in the colorway Peach Blossom. And I love the way that the two colors marled together. It's kind of hard to see on camera. You can still see the pink mohair, but it's not crazy pink. So, and from afar, it definitely reads red, which I like. So I'm super happy with it. There's not a lot to say about this. It kind of went off without a hitch, most likely because it is just about as simple as you can get for a sweater. It's all knit in one piece. It's 99.9% stockinette. There's a few short rows in the back, but really you could probably leave those out and it would look just about the same. So my sleeves were really skinny, which I talked about in the last episode. And I guess if I knit it again, I would probably do fewer decreases, or I would add the length at the top of the sleeve or kind of throughout the sleeve, because I kind of did just add it right at the end when it was at its most narrow. And it makes it pretty skinny, but I haven't blocked it yet because I can't stop wearing it. But I think that it's gonna stretch out a little bit when I block it, or I'm gonna stretch it out when I block it, and I think the sleeves will be, you know, just a little bit bigger. They're not prohibitively small. They're just a little bit smaller than I would have chosen myself. So success, finished object. And you guys, I have another finished object. Don't get excited because I usually don't have finished objects for episodes, so this is very unusual. Okay, I finished it. This is my Hisho shawl by Olga, Buraya-Kefelian. It is done. It's done. I'm so excited. Okay. This is a crescent shaped shawl. It is enormous, as you might be able to tell. It is knit in 4 skeins of fingering weight yarn. The yarn is by Movers and Makers, which is kind of the house yarn for my local yarn store, Nina Chicago. It is knit in 4 different colorways. Midnight in the Park, Big Star, Milk and Honey, which is like a really light peachy pink, and Smoke Daddy, the gray. And look how little I have left, which is crazy because, okay, this shawl, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is enormous. It's supposed to be 99 inches. The wingspan is supposed to be 99 inches, which is huge. but mine is even bigger. I have no idea how big it is because my blocking mats, I don't have enough blocking mats to fully stretch this out, which is crazy because I thought I had like 3 extra from what the pattern recommends, and it just still was not even close to enough. So it's not even fully properly blocked. I did like the best that I could. And you guys, I eliminated a pattern repeat. So you do one of each color, you know, so 1 repeat is 4 blocks of color. And you're supposed to do a full other repeat. And I didn't because I was completely running out of yarn. And it wasn't yarn chicken, I knew I was gonna make it. But I definitely wouldn't have made it, oh, my yarn is attacking me. I definitely wouldn't have made it through another repeat. Especially after the bind off, which you guys, so you probably know this because you all have been knitting longer than I have, but this has an I-cord bind off all the way around the longest edge of the shawl. And it's so long. I had never done I-cord bind off before, and it was over 800 stitches. And I did not time it, but I would not be surprised if it took me over 5 hours to do. It was so painstakingly slow, but I think it looks really great, and it actually helped with the rolling. It's mostly stockinette, so it does curl quite a bit. I don't even really mind. The ends do that little curlicue thing, which at first I thought I would hate, but now I kind of love. I don't know. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so the problem is it's so ginormous. I don't even know where I'm gonna wear it. Am I gonna wear it? I don't even know. The thing is, I don't even really care. It was so fun to make. Okay, this is not looking so great, and I might have heat stroke with my sweater, but it is awesome. Oh, this is not working. Okay, there, that's a little better. No, curling. Okay, use your imagination, people. I will say a couple things. It would not be my podcast without a significant amount of screw ups. So I got down to the last repeat. So I'm doing my last set of colors, and I actually got down to the last color before the bind off, the gray. And I was so excited because I was almost done, and I thought I would, you know, maybe be able to wrap it up even a week or 2 early, because this was part of a knit along, the Kinship and Friends knit along hosted by Michael over at Piece for Piece Crafting, and the deadline for the knit along was today, Friday, April 23rd. And this was probably 2 weeks ago, so I was like, oh, I'm so ahead of the game. I'm gonna finish this shawl way early, I can block it and take some lovely pictures and submit it, and look at me doing all the things. Except, so I'm knitting this last row, this last block of color, and I get way down the row. I don't even know, there were probably 2 or 3 rows left. I get way down, I probably do 700 stitches, and I notice, oh my gosh, I have 5 rows of the gray where I'm knitting, and I got to a little part and there were only 3 rows. And I looked at it and was like, what is going on here? And then I realized what had gone on. You probably know. You probably figured this out faster than I did. I had set down the shawl and picked it up and started knitting in the opposite direction. I had essentially put in unintentional short rows in my shawl. And I had done it so far down the row that I would have had to tink back probably 1,400 stitches, give or take, a few hundred, to correct my mistake. So if this weren't part of a cal, I probably would have just stuffed it in a bag for a few months and forgotten about it, and then fished it out sometime in 2022 and fixed it or whatever. But I was so close to finishing, and the deadline for the cal was coming up, and I was really excited to be a part of it, so I just bit the bullet and fixed it. I ended up I wasn't gonna take back 1,400 stitches, so what I did was I just took it all off the needles. I laid it out on the floor and pulled the needles out and ripped back the 2 rows extra before I put the short row in. And then I had to get all 800 or so stitches back onto the needle, which was really tricky because, okay, this pattern is basically all stockinette, which would be great for ripping back, except that every few stitches you have these slip stitches, I don't know if you can see, and when you pull them off the needles, they just pull back. So it was really tricky and annoying and tedious to get them all back on, but I did it. I got them on there, and I fixed all my twisted stitches and got it all situated and finished the shawl and tackled the eye cord bind off and blocked it and did it. And I'm really glad I did, and I would highly recommend it to anyone as long as you don't mind having 10 feet of shawl. The only other thing I would say about this is there were a lot of ends, and I wove them in as I went, as they suggested in the pattern. I actually watched a bunch of Stephen West videos, which this pattern is not by Stephen West, it's by Olga, Buraya-Kefelian. But Stephen West has a good video about weaving in ends as you go called Weave and Stephen, and it's kind of the same technique where you wrap your ends around your working yarn and they kind of just get trapped in the back of your work. But the Weave and Stephen recommends weaving in your ends for 8 to 10 stitches at least, and the pattern only recommended weaving them in for 4, so I was doing it for 4 and then for 5 because it seemed short to me. But I chickened out when I was done with the shawl, and I was worried that they just weren't gonna stay, so I ended up just weaving them in even more after I was done. I don't know if that was extraneous. It probably wasn't necessary, but the thought of it unraveling was scary. So I wove them in even more. So they're super woven in. And then I trimmed them, and I love it. And I will let you know if I figure out a way to wear this. I don't know, maybe it'll just be a really weirdly shaped lap blanket. You guys, I might just put it on the back of the couch just to look at how pretty it is. One last thing. Okay, this is supposed to create kind of a 3D texture with the pulled slip stitches. They pull in. And I think I was really jazzed up when I blocked it, and I kind of blocked out the textural effect, which I was a little sad about. You can still see it a little, but before I had blocked it, it was really pronounced. So I don't think it's gone for good. I think if I block it again, which, maybe in like a year's time, I will do that when I have more blocking mats. I don't know. And maybe I'll be a little less, be a little less aggressive with how much I stretch it widthwise. It was not very aggressive, but it was enough to just sort of stretch out the slip stitches enough that it's not as 3D as I would have liked, or I think as the pattern intends. But you guys, this is amazing. I would recommend it. If you want some mindless knitting that ends up looking pretty great at the end, 5 stars. Highly recommend. Okay, what else do I have? I have, if you can believe it, one more finished object. It's kind of embarrassing even to include it, but I'm going to because I did it. Okay, it is a baby bonnet. And you might ask yourself, what business do I have knitting baby bonnets? I have no babies. My oldest baby is 5. There are no babies in my family. I don't know a single person who's pregnant. It's like one of those times in your life when we're just devoid of babies, which is totally fine. We've had so much baby in years past that I'm actually quite happy to be done with it. However, I was watching Grizzlie Knits, which is another really good podcast. It was new to me, but not new. So if you're looking for a good one, Grizzlie Knits is a good one to do. She makes some really lovely projects. But I watched her recent podcast, and then I went back and started watching some of her early ones because I like to see where people start. And back in the day, she used to knit props for newborn baby photographers, super random and oddly specific. And she would show some of these props on her podcast. And they were so adorable. They were like little overalls, little knitted onesies with ruffly tutus and bonnets and booties and I don't even know. It was super cute. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole on Ravelry and on Etsy with all these knitted baby things. When I had my babies, I didn't knit. I didn't know how to knit, and so I didn't make them anything. So I've actually never made a baby item, ever, never ever. So I thought I want to do that. I'm gonna make, who cares? I'm gonna make something. So I went on the Simply Sycamore website, which if you are looking for a cuteness fix, Simply Sycamore on Etsy has just some amazing baby patterns and knitted items that you can purchase, and they are just the cuteness factors off the charts. So I bought, of course I couldn't find a free pattern. That would be too reasonable of me. No, I bought a pattern for my, as of yet, non-existent recipient of this baby item. I bought a pattern for the Willow bonnet, and it is just the cutest little bonnet in sport weight. I think my yarn is a little bit thinner than the yarn in the pattern, but I didn't care because this is not for a real baby. It's not for any baby. But I knitted it anyway. It took no time at all. I knit it in a day, like half a day. And it's a cute little textured pattern. There is an option to do an added on a little crocheted part on the front, but as we talked about before, I don't have a crochet hook, or I have one. I don't know how to use it. It seemed complicated. And since this is not for a real baby, I figured, who cares? I'm leaving it off. It curls in like a cute way. So I love it. But I couldn't, when I first made it, it looked super tiny. I don't remember how big newborn heads are. It's been probably 4 or 5 years since I've held a newborn head. And on the Simply Sycamore website, she has all these really amazing wooden spheres where she displays her baby bonnets, and it all looks vaguely, like very charming and vaguely Scandinavian and really professional. And I, of course, don't have any of those, and I'm not Scandinavian or professional or charming. So I do have grapefruits, and I think they are kind of the size of newborn heads. I was trying to remember. I picked it up. I was like, yeah, that seems right to me. So it fits my grapefruit. It is slightly more misshapen and lumpy than a lovely wooden sphere, but as I recall, newborn heads are also misshapen and lumpy. And still cute. So this is my grapefruit baby with a really cute bonnet. If you're looking for a bonnet, highly recommend the Willow bonnet. It was easy, it was fast, and it is adorable. And you just knit these ties and cinch them on. So also cute. Her ties are like twice as long. I sort of ran out of steam at that point because, like I said, this isn't for a real baby, so I made the ties a little shorter. But there is the option to increase them, so if that's your jam, go for it. Make the longest ties. Okay, and that is it for finished objects. So you might ask yourself, what am I even working on? Is there even anything left to work on? Do I have works in progress? And yes, the answer is always yes. The only way to finish all the things is to cast on all the things, or so I tell myself. So I cast on some new stuff. I cast on one thing, and then I have some plans. So I cast on the Edie tee by Isabell Kraemer. It was one of the ones I was looking at before, and I was trying to come up with the summer tee. So I went with the Edie. I cast it on in the recommended yarn, which is Quince & Co. Sparrow. It's 100% linen. Mine is in the colorway, ooh, do not come off the needles. Mine is in the colorway Truffle, which is kind of this beautiful clay color. It's 100% linen, so it is ropey and it is stretchy in a way that is very challenging for me to knit. I only just started, so there's really not much to see. But the Edie tee is a top-down raglan. It's a V-neck, so you start out knitting flat back and forth for the V, join in the round, separate for sleeves, and then there's these textured stripes on the body that are supposed to deal with the substantial biasing that happens with this yarn. So I didn't get to that part. I'm still in the V-neck part. I don't know if you can see, probably not. I'm gonna try. Okay, so it comes together at the V in the point at the front. Okay, this looks terrible. But Anyway, it is working. I'm working on the V-neck. I'm a little worried the V is gonna be too deep because I usually find V-necks too deep. So I think I'm gonna join in the round a little bit early and just make up for the lost increases by doing some extra raglan increases. So that's my plan. So far it's going well. The pattern is written really clearly, so I haven't had any trouble with that. It recommends you use your stitch markers for your raglan, so I'm doing that. I will say my gauge looks enormous. Like it's kind of see-through in a way that I wasn't anticipating. I did swatch. Oh no, don't drop stitches. Okay, hang on, surgery. Okay, got it, disaster averted. So I did swatch, and I am working on a US size 3 because that's how I got gauge. I washed my swatch, and maybe it's because I washed it. My swatch is not see-through. So I don't know, I don't remember. Maybe I didn't pay attention to what it looked like before I washed it. But I'm hoping that when I wash my garment, it will kind of tighten up. Because if I end up with a t-shirt that looks like this, that's gonna be a problem. But I'm assuming it will tighten up. Maybe, fingers crossed. I think it's gonna happen. I mean, your swatch can't be wrong by that much, right? Swatches lie, but they don't lie that much. So I don't know. We're about to find out. So I'm working on the EDT, and then not to be outdone, I have plans to make another sweater, but this is a winter sweater. But I'm starting it early because I think it's gonna be really hard. So let me see if I can find my stuff. The sweater that I am planning on making is called Schneeflocken. It's a yoked colorwork sweater with a turtleneck, and actually the colorwork comes up again on the sleeves. Let me find the sleeve picture. Here you go, this is a good one. On the sleeves and on the hem. It is so pretty, you guys. So pretty. It's knit bottom up, and then you, I don't even know. I didn't read that far. You start at the hem, and then you knit the sleeve separate and somehow put them on. I don't you guys, okay. So this pattern is by Sarah Solomon of Into the Wool. I think that's her. Hang on, let me look. Here I am just talking. Into the Wool, yes. So it is beautiful. It's pretty recent. The pattern came out in February, so I am of the moment, very of the moment. So you might be asking yourself, hey Karen, have you knit anything colorwork before? Have you ever made a colorwork item? And if you watched the first episode, you might remember my sheep hat, which was colorwork. I mean, that was stranded knitting, which was semi-successful. I have knit some hats, but I look for them. I've knit hats for my daughters, colorwork hats for my daughters, but they have vaporized. I don't know if they're in the school lost and found, or if they're in the bottom of their backpack while they're at school, or what has happened to them. But I knit 2 colorwork hats, and they are no longer in my house. So they were pretty successful. Like, the girls wore them all the time, so I'll take that as a win. So I have knit one of the Malay mitten by Isolde Teague. It's all over stranded knitting. This beautiful contrasting cuff on the inside, which I just think is so pretty. I modified the cuff. I took out a pattern repeat because it was just way too wide. There used to be a full other star on the cuff that would make it kind of like more like this width, but it was just too wide for my hand. So I took one out, and I really liked the way it turned out. I don't think there was a lot of puckering. And I think the top is just so pretty, and it even comes in, the blue comes in again on the thumb. I don't think my thumb is the most beautiful example of stranded knitting, but it works, it fits, and these haven't been blocked. Well, this hasn't been blocked yet because I still haven't made the second one, which at this point I think I'm gonna do next winter or before next winter. I don't know, it was really challenging to do this, so Once I finished it, I was felt so accomplished that I just wasn't really into making the second one. Story of my knitting life. So I will at some point finish the second, but I mean, I did it. So I'm hopeful that I can make the Schneeflocken sweater happen. I bought Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which I've never knit with. I've heard good things. I've heard varying things about it, but it is 100% wool, non-superwash. So it's a little bit rustic, but really light, really airy. It's woolen spun, so there's a lot of air in there. In the colorway Pumpernickel and Fossil. So Pumpernickel is going to be my dark color for the turtleneck and the cuffs and the hem. Get that other picture again. And then Fossil is going to be the center color. So I wound it up. I've heard some people say that Loft, they complain about Brooklyn Tweed Loft because it breaks easily. And I will say, I started knitting the swatch, which I'll show you in a minute. It is kind of varying degrees of thickness. I don't know if you can see on the podcast, but there's a good example. Like parts of it are really thick and parts of it are quite thin. It's fingering weight. So how much is in here? 275 yards per 100 grams. I think that's right. But I have not had a break on me while I was winding it up or while I was knitting the swatch, although I'm not done with the swatch. So I'll show you. Okay. So I thought it would be a good idea to knit up the hem chart in the color work just to see what my gauge is with the stranded knitting and get a sense for how the yarn is working and whether I was going to be able to do this. So I'm halfway through the swatch and it's going all right. I wouldn't say it's the most beautiful example of color work. It's been a while since I did it, and I was never that great to begin with. So I don't know, I think there's definitely room for improvement. One thing that I have a question about, it was a lot to manage with knitting a swatch in the round and also dealing with yarn management with the two colors and making sure I was holding my dominant color in the right hand and not getting all tangled up. So it was slow going. I wanted to make sure I spread out the stitches so they weren't puckering. I still think that some of the white is just not popping the way that I'd like. And I think that's because the pattern recommends that you hold the darker color as your dominant color throughout. But there are definitely parts of the pattern. I mean, I think that makes sense kind of here, where the darker color you want it to pop through. But at the base of the hem, you really want the white to show through. And then it kind of splits right there. You can see where it sort of changes over. So I'm sort of contemplating when I do the sweater itself, starting out with the light color as the dominant color, just to see if it will show through more and not be so recessed. And it's not puckering here, but it's definitely kind of in the background, the white. That might just be my tension, and I haven't blocked it yet because I'm not done yet. But I don't know, I'm not crazy about it. So I'm gonna try that out. But based on the swatch, I would estimate that this sweater is gonna take me about 987 weeks to complete, because this half of a swatch has taken me 3.5 days. So I do love the way it's knitting up. I think it's really pretty. I think I would wear it. It is not the softest of wool, but that doesn't really bother me. And I've heard that it softens up with the more you handle it, the more you wash it. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do it. I don't know. It is a turtleneck. I think I'll be all right. I'm excited to knit a sweater that does not have mohair in it, because pretty much all my sweaters, with the exception of the Anchor Summer Tee, have had mohair held double, so this is kind of a departure. So I'm looking forward to that. But this is going to be one of those longer term projects where I probably won't show it all the time on the podcast because you'll be like, hooray, you knit 3 rows. Good job, Karen. But anyway, that is in the works. I have one last thing. So my daughters have been asking me if they can knit, which is really cute and really charming. And of course, I would like them to knit. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. Although they're 5 and 6, so it's not the easiest. I mean, some of it is just they have to get a little bit more motor skills before they're going to be able to be successful. But I thought maybe if I cast on a simple hat, they could knit a few stitches of stockinette on the hat, and then we could sort of work on it together, and I could, fix their mistakes and help them feel more successful with, contributing to a bigger project. So my 6-year-old picked out this yarn. It is Northern Bee Studios, which is based out of Wisconsin, which I have hang on, I got the tag. Oh, here we go. Okay, Northern Bee Studio. I love these guys. This is their Studio DK. It's 100% superwash merino, 230 yards for 100 grams, and in the colorway Northern Bee Blue. Very original. It's a beautiful turquoise. She loves it, which is great because I've never seen her love a color other than Dayglow Pink. So I'm happy about that. I told my girls that I would knit the ribbing. So I cast on 88 stitches. I don't really have a pattern because I figure this is just going to be stockinette with some decreases at the top. So I'm knitting some ribbing for the brim. I don't know how much I'm going to do. I asked her if she liked it folded over or just kind of a straight brim, and she said she didn't want it folded. So probably do a few more inches and then switch over to stockinette, maybe go up a needle size or a couple needle sizes. I think this is a 4. And we'll just do some stockinette round and round until they get bored, and then I'll finish it. So this is my blue hat. There's no pattern. There's no great shakes, but we could use a hat because I have discovered all of our hats are missing. So hopefully it won't be cold anytime soon. Actually, it's supposed to be 77 on Tuesday, which is crazy because today it was 30. Go figure. I love spring. So also the blue hat. I don't really have any other plans. I would like to come up with some kind of mindless knitting. My Hisho shawl was great. Some great project to work on that still looked good, but it was definitely did not require any sort of brain power. And I know my Schneeflocken is gonna take every last brain cell that I have, and even the EDT, it's not hard, but I do have to pay attention to raglan increases, and the linen yarn is a challenge kind of in and of itself. It's a little slippy, and I just have to pay attention because the plies sometimes separate while I'm working with it. I think it's just like that until you wash it. So I'm looking for a project that is a little bit easier, just something. That was what was great about the no frill sweater. It was just super easy. The yarn was easy, the pattern was easy. It was just lots and lots of stockinette, but the end product was still something that was worth doing. So kind of in the market for that. I don't know. I'm gonna look for it. I don't know if I want another sweater. I mean, of course I want another sweater. I thought maybe a cardigan, but no buttons. No, nothing tricky, just back and forth. I don't even know if I could deal with a pocket. So I'm gonna poke around for that. I probably would have to get yarn because, like I said, I don't have much of a stash. But I'll let you know what I come up with. If you have any super easy stockinette projects that you love or that you've made more than once, or just, I'd love to hear about it. I sort of don't want to do a shawl right now because I feel like I'm a little bit shawled out, and I have to figure out how to use my Hisho shawl because that's going to be a challenge in and of itself. So maybe a garment, or I don't know. This is a good problem to have, so I'll figure something out and I'll let you know. Other than that, that's all I've got. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. I'm so glad that we could spend some time together. I'm so thankful that you've taken some time out of your day to check in and watch a video. I hope you have some success with your knitting, or if you don't have success, you at least have a really funny story. And I will check in with you soon. Happy knitting. All right, we're obviously super professional here, people. This is a professional operation.